Hey Nathan, let's take a look at your week 1 assignment 3 drawings. I guess it depends on the marker paper, but most of the marker papers they are the same on the front as they are on the back. There are, I'm sure, many marker papers out there that I don't know about, and so I can't say that for everything. But of the ones that I have used, they are that way, where they're both the same. These actually, to me, don't really show anything to suggest that you're using the wrong side of the paper. It feels a little slick, but I think marker paper in general is that way. It doesn't have a huge amount of absorbency. It tends to let the marker sit on the top of the page and let the alcohol evaporate rather than soaking into the page too much. So that's kind of what this looks like to me. And I thought your blind technique ended up looking pretty good overall. You've got some great cuts. You're maintaining the edges of your shapes and of your drawing extremely well, even with the circle, which is a complicated one. And the blind technique itself is looking very good. Really consistent movement and doing, I think, everything you can to move all the way up into the cut but not extend beyond it, minimizing the white and minimizing overlaps. One thing I would say you could do or try to work on a little is that you've got some of these kind of darker areas towards the bottom of each of your shapes. Some cases it's there, some cases it's not. A lot of it depends on the marker you're using, where I think the lighter colors tend to be a little bit more forgiving than the darker ones. But you can see kind of these areas where your marker has rested, and as it rests it kind of starts to introduce more and more ink into the paper until you release. So I think getting into the habit of making the stroke and releasing as soon as you're done with it, to the point where you can control it, is a good habit to get into, because the longer you let it sit at the end of that, as well as maybe if you start off and say you think about where you want to go with it, well, it's going to keep putting marker into the paper and get darker and darker and darker. So I would just try as best you can to make the stroke and then lift off, so that you don't get these poolings of marker. It's a minor thing, and it also kind of gets better as you use the marker more, so it's not something that I or you should really lose any sleep over, but it's something to know about and to keep an eye on. The side to side for me feel a little bit looser and a little bit rougher than the blind technique. With the blind, you have got these great edges, your corners are nice and sharp, your shapes are nice and symmetrical. The side to side shapes get just a little bit wobblier. Edge quality tends to be a little more up and down. Consistency of the fill on the inside is good, but I think it could get a little bit more consistent. You've got these light values, these splotches of kind of lighter value, and then you have these kind of darker value where I think more marker was put into place. And we're seeing that with really with all of them, the color and the grayscale. We definitely see a darker area of pink here and then a lighter area of pink here, so you need to get that to be more consistent. You got to move into the edges more, because your cut is very, very light on the outside and very dark on the inside where you're going in with the fill, so you have to go all the way up to the edge of the cut, and then you've got kind of like these halo areas where it's lighter in value all the way around the shape, especially where you've got the overlaps. So these are definite issues. They are issues that, like the lifting of the marker, tend to recede as you use the marker more. But I don't want people to get complacent about it. Just because it's always kind of there but it gets minimized doesn't mean you shouldn't be working towards eliminating it. So just kind of keep an eye on it and do your best to very carefully use your marker all the way up to the edge as much as you can, and try to get clean, kind of sharp edges with it. It's difficult because you're going over that area so many times, but it is something that you want to work towards. I'd say otherwise it's a good showing of drawings and a really nice showing of the technique.